Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Department of English, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, it's a great pleasure in inviting you all to the International Symposium titled Shakespeare Today in Indian Context. At the outset of the program, I would like to request all our esteemed dignitaries to kindly begin this auspicious program by the lighting of the lamp. Now, I would like to request the Dean School of Humanities and Languages, Professor Prasoon Sir, to kindly felicitate the chairperson of today's event, Professor Sanjay Srivastava ji, Honorable Vice-Chancellor MGCUB, with a token of our gratitude, a book of William Shakespeare and a shawl. Now, I would like to request the chair of the session to kindly felicitate our esteemed guest who is with us in person, Professor Amarnath Prasad ji from JP University, Chhapra, with a shawl, with a token, and a book by William Shakespeare. Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request the convener of this program, Dr. Bimlesh Kumar Singh ji, Head Department of English, to felicitate the Dean School of Humanities and Languages with a shawl, with a token, and a book by William Shakespeare. Today, we have a panel of distinguished scholars and a group of enthusiastic Shakespearean students to make the perfect recipe for the relishing and contemplation of Shakespearean art and its relevance in the Indian context in the 21st century. But at first, to introduce all our dignitaries, let me request the convener of this program, Dr. Bimlesh Kumar Singh ji.
Thank you, Dr. Umesh. First of all, I welcome all of you to 460th birth anniversary of the Bard. At this occasion, I would like to welcome Hon'ble Vice-Chancellor Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Professor Sanjay Srivastava sir. Due to whose blessings and guidance, we are able to organize this International Symposium on Shakespeare Today. In a very short time, we are very lucky, Honorable Vice-Chancellor sir. He just gave a green signal to organize this wonderful show today. So I express my gratitude to the Chief Patron and Chairperson of today's symposium, Professor Sanjay Srivastava sir. In this program, I would like to welcome Professor Prasoon Dutta Singh ji, who is Dean School of Humanities and Languages. He has been always with us as far as academic events are concerned, and due to his efforts, we have been able to make this program a reality today. So thank you so much, sir. I welcome today's one of the distinguished speakers, Professor Amarnath ji, who has come all the way from JP University, Chhapra, and he is head of department over there. And today I came to know that he is not only an academician, rather he is a very prolific writer. So sir, I welcome you to this international symposium. In this symposium, this is my honor to welcome Professor R.P. Singh ji, who is a senior professor of English, University of Lucknow, and he has joined us online. And in a short while, we are going to listen to his keynote address. I would like to inform the assembly today that all our speakers today, they are genuine students of Shakespeare. And besides Professor R.P. Singh ji, we have Professor Vipin Kumar Singh, who is Dean School of Humanities and Language and Head of Department of English, Central University of South Bihar. So on behalf of English Department, I also welcome you, sir. I welcome today Dr. Meeta, who due to some unavoidable circumstances and medical issue, she is not going to speak, but her best wishes are with us. I welcome Dr. Alka Singh ma'am, who belongs to Department of Legal Studies, Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University, Lucknow. I welcome my friend from Indonesia, Dr. Akshendro Max Milan, who is going to speak on Shakespeare. So I welcome all the dignitaries. Actually, when there is a talk about William Shakespeare, I consider myself to be a genuine student of Shakespeare today. And this is a happy coincidence. Today is a very auspicious day. On the one hand, we are celebrating the birth anniversary of the great Indian spiritual icon Hanuman. At the same time, we are also celebrating the 460th birth anniversary of the Bard of Heaven, William Shakespeare. Today is the birthday of great Bihari freedom fighter Veer Kumar Singh, and UNESCO has declared 23rd April as the World Book Day. So I welcome all of you to this auspicious day today. I was reading this morning the first play of William Shakespeare, Henry VI, Part 1, and the play begins with the invocation of the heaven. I was reading the first poem by William Shakespeare, Venus and Adonis, and the poem begins with the heaven and a star. So what I mean to submit that we find there is a great design of nature and almighty in the making of a man like Shakespeare. Lewis and Kajamia, a great writer, he writes, Shakespeare has nothing but natural genius and daily experience of the stage. And in the age of 52 years, this man was able to create 37 great plays, 154 sonnets, and 6 narrative poems. I wonder that even today, Shakespeare is the most adapted writer if we talk about Bollywood cinema or Hollywood. And I wonder, a man who was just 4th class passed was able to invent more than 1700 words. And he had command over 2500 words. And I would like to tell you, not only, politics, literature, science, but even we talk about environment today, William Shakespeare's characters, they are equally conscious about eco-critical issue. And this is our great fortune today, Honorable VC Sir, who is a scholar of political science. And sir, I would like to just share with you, Shakespeare is full of political science. And if you just remember Julius Caesar by Shakespeare and the character of Brutus, who stand for republicanism, and Julius Caesar stood for a kind of system. So Shakespeare always tries to advocate what is called a good social order political system. And quite different from Hobbes and Machiavelli, Shakespeare wanted to tell us about the concept of philosopher king which Plato talked about. If I remember, Prospero in The Tempest, and Duke Senior in As You Like It, and Vincenzo in Measure for Measure, I remember Plato's concept of philosopher king. So you take example of anything, even today, I didn't find any writer who was able to encapsulate in 3 words the greatest enigma of human life, that is Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. And I think today this is the time to remember Shakespeare. I am grateful to my erudite friend Professor R.P. Singh ji, whose discussion with me brought me to decide the topic Shakespeare today in Indian context. For example, if we talk about Hamlet, we have Indian Hamlet, Heather. And if you watch Heather, the Vishal Bharadwaj, he does not only narrate the Elizabethan setting, he also relates Hamlet to the contemporary Kashmiri issue. Similarly, we find Makbul, the adaptation of Macbeth, Unkara, the adaptation of Othello, Kayamat Se Kayamat Tak movie, it was adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, and many more. Time is very short, and we have to listen to great academicians today. So, at this occasion, I would like to welcome all the erudite panelists today, and this is my great fortune today that due to the cooperation of my dear colleagues, Dr. Umesh Patra, Dr. Kalyani Hajri, Mr. Balande Chanduba, Dr. Deepak, and my students, we are able to organize this function today. And at this point, I would also like to tell you, Department of English, although we have not very uh, profuse infrastructure, but under the guidance of Honorable VC Sir, we are doing great academic, business and event. In our department, we are running literary society, Harmony, and our students, research scholar, especially Krishna Kumar, Tapas Sarkar, Prabhat, they have made it possible. They have introduced a kind of digital archive, and you will see the happenings of department on YouTube. And so, with these joint efforts, which Shakespeare talks about, Shakespeare always talks about how to bring out the best out of the worst. And that's why Shakespeare is very relevant today, not only in India, but even abroad. And reading Shakespeare is a kind of panacea, it is a kind of elixir, it is a kind of nectar for all of us. If you dive into ocean of Shakespeare, you will find your life is liberated. And today is the day when we are going to deliberate upon this great titan, this great genius who has left nothing under the sun. I remember great French philosopher Alexander Dumas, who has written, after God, Shakespeare has created the most. And if you look at his language, if you look at his image, and I remember Thomas Carlyle, who was telling Queen Victoria that, Madam, your Indian empire will go sometime, because India was a colony that time. Madam, your Indian empire will go, but my Shakespeare will live. So what I want to submit, a genius like Shakespeare is a like eternal river of life, beauty, joy, and wisdom. With these words, I welcome all the dignitaries and the Honorable Chairperson of today to this International Symposium on Shakespeare. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. In a nutshell, you spoke about the relevance of the Bard of Avon today and the fact that we are celebrating the birth anniversary of someone who was born nearly 500 years ago near the river Avon in the Great Britain. And today we are celebrating that under the Balua Bridge in Motihari. Speaks volumes about his relevance today. Now, the Department of English, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, rigorously pursues the critical analysis of authors like William Shakespeare and others of his ilk. This year also, the department is seeking admission of students, and on this occasion, I would like to request all the dignitaries and my fellow colleagues to please launch the admission brochure of Department of English. I would like to request Dr. Kalyani Hajri, Dr. Deepak, and my colleague, Mr. Balandi Chandobanda Singh, to please come to the dais and launch the departmental admission brochure. Thank you, sir. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. We can't talk about Shakespeare without relishing Shakespeare. And I would now like to request the trio of Mrutyunjay, Ayush, and Vineet to perform a scene from one of his most debatably, controversially magnum opus, Hamlet, the scene involving Rosencrantz and Guildenstern and the Prince of Denmark himself.
What shall you?
ये start करो. What shall we do?
We'll do what we have been told to.
Will he listen to us?
Well, he has to. We are his friends. Okay, why don't you do one thing? You go, look for him, I'll follow you. Okay?
Okay.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it is normal to suffer in the mind, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, to take up arms against sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them.
Reflect, you are here. Your mother in great affliction. She has sent me to you. Go and meet her. She is in pain.
You're welcome. Let's dance.
My lord, my lord, my lord. This behavior is not of right spirit. Please give us a wholesome answer so that we'll do it to your mother's commandment.
Cannot make you an answer.
But my lord,
Cannot give you an answer. I'm in disease. But what about my mother, you say?
then thus she says your behavior has been admired by her.
Oh, wonderful son. That must astonish a mother.
She desires to speak with you in her closet. Go and meet her.
I will. If she were 10 times our mother. Do you have any further business with me?
My lord, we are your friends.
Really? You're my friends?
Of course we are your friends. And you must share the reason of your grief with us.
I have no friends. I have no acquaintances. I have no well-wishers.
But how can that be? You are going to be the king of Denmark. All of these are your friends. And among these, we love you the most.
I do not well understand. All right. You play upon this front.
My lord, I cannot.
I pray you.
Believe me, I cannot.
I order you.
I know no touch of it, my lord.
This is as easy as lying. Manage this pose with your fingers and thumb. Give it a breath with your mouth. It will produce the most eloquent music. Try it.
Even if I try to, I won't be able to produce the harmony. I have not the...
What about you?
My lord, I can only produce sound, not music.
What's the matter? Stop laughing. Why? How fool you make of me. You play upon me. You seem to know my stops. You sound me from my lowest note, the top of my compass, and yet there's much music. Excellent words in this little poem. Yet what make it speak? Do you think easier to be played upon than a pipe? Call me what instrument you will. When you can fret me, you cannot play upon me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ayush, Vineet, and Mrityunjay. And now we move to the first formal segment of this program. Now, before I invite Professor R.P. Singh, who is the keynote speaker of this program, let me speak a few words about him. He is not only a professor at Lucknow University, but is a national award-winning playwright, poet, and critic in both English and Hindi. Some of his critically acclaimed play anthologies are flea market in the other place, Eklok, then Branch of Lies, and Antardwand, 14 February, or Shakespeare की सात रातें. He has also written a number of poems, including The World of Mavi, नीली आंखों वाली लड़की, Pathik, Pravah, Cloud, Moon, and a Little Girl. Who better than Professor R.P. Singh to be the keynote addressee, to be the keynote speaker of this program? With these words, sir, the virtual platform I devote to you.
Thank you so much for your kind, generous introduction. I extend my greetings to Hon'ble Vice-Chancellor of this prestigious university, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, East Champaran, the Dean Faculty of Languages, the head Department of English, a very significant scholar in Indian English Academy, Professor B. K Singh Sahab, fellow colleagues in this event, and my dear students. This is such a happy note to celebrate the birth anniversary and the death anniversary of William Shakespeare, who is rather a cliche in English academia across the globe. I was enlightened by the speech of the head department of English when he brought to our notice that it is also the birth anniversary of Veer Kunwar Singh Sahab, a very well-known freedom fighter of Indian War of Independence. Also, spiritually, we are associated with the Jan Mahotsav of Hanuman ji, our religious and cultural icon hero. When we talk about why this collage of references, this collage of references reminds us to the collective psyche. Okay, just a minute. I will take a minute. I will get back. There are some shouting outside. I'm so sorry. There was somebody quarreling outside, so I had to go back. So this is still, when we have to work in any academic scenario, we can draw a lot of inferences from the life of Shakespeare, from the works of Shakespeare. The topic of today's discussion, that is Shakespeare in Indian context. Shakespeare in Indian context. Here we have to look at Shakespeare from a fresh perspective. There are two patterns of looking at Shakespeare that I can say here. The one that is that of an academician, and the second that of a person looking at the humanity at large, and to see Shakespeare, to look Shakespeare, to read Shakespeare from the perspective of a humanitarian agency. So, keeping this in mind, we should look at Shakespeare in 2024 when we are training our students in English classroom under the impression of NEP 2020 guideline. We are looking at the text. We are looking at curriculum development from a perspective that is decolonizing English studies, a perspective that is looking at any tradition, that is looking at anything. Let me take a 1 minute again. Somebody, there is some whirling out. I'm so sorry for the disturbance outside. Looking at Shakespeare from the viewpoint of a scholar, looking at Shakespeare as a poet, looking at Shakespeare as a philosopher, looking at Shakespeare as the propagator of the Elizabethan sensibilities, looking at Shakespeare from the perspective of an Elizabethan Renaissance artist. They are different research questions. These are different research questions that have been discussed by a scholar right from the time when Ben Jonson and later on the Romantic critic, they were talking about Shakespeare down to the current scenario. I do not want to talk about the biography of Shakespeare. I do not want to talk about the reception of Shakespeare in different scholarly schools of thought, because this is a prestigious department of English, and most of the scholars, most of the students, they are aware of the basic information on that. I would like to offer here a prism model, something that appeals me, something that communicates with me, to look at the aura of Shakespeare. We suppose take Shakespeare as an institution, take Shakespeare as an entity in literature, take Shakespeare as the heritage of scholarship in Indian cultural context. Right from the perspective when we start looking at Shakespeare to the current scenario, when we are working under the guidelines of what we call Champaran of our Honorable Prime Minister, who has given a very significant model to look at anything that is Western, to look at anything that is imported from the West, to look at anything that is not Indian. So keeping that in mind, I would rather suggest what I call the 5 perspective model, prism model. Number 1, that is hermeneutic perspective that we are all aware of. We are all looking at Shakespeare from the hermeneutic perspective. What do you know by hermeneutic perspective? The meaning making process. How Shakespeare is giving different meaning to different scholar in different point, in different phase of time. Then one more perspective that is in Indian context that I would rather propose here to this August gathering is the cultural studies perspective to look at Shakespeare. Can we look at Shakespeare, how the works of Shakespeare are the cultural product, how the works of Shakespeare have been commodified, how the works of Shakespeare have been packaged by those in the power centers of the late of the English colonies, we can say. Let's again grope into the pattern of what we call comparative perspective. There is many times a big debate in our circles when we compare Kalidas and Shakespeare. Kalidas as Shakespeare of India or Shakespeare as Kalidas of England. This debate. We scholars are not going that into this kind of segregation of ideas. Who is not writing in this line or that line? But thing is that let's open the iron boxes to look into the text by different scholars across the globe to find out common trajectories, common tropes that are related with human being in center, that are associating the criticism, that are doing something for the cause of humanity. Also, one more viewpoint that I would rather suggest to this, I will rather humbly propose to this gathering, is the reception perspective. How the works of Shakespeare in synchronic order and in diachronic order. In diachronic order, what has been the criticism of Shakespeare in the neoclassical criticism, what has been the criticism of Shakespeare in the phase of romantic era, how the Victorian authors, how the Victorian thinkers, they were building their ideas, they were building their stories, they were building their discourses, their speeches, taking a lot of things from the statements of Shakespeare. We are all familiar with the debate of George Bernard Shaw and T.S. Eliot, when George Bernard Shaw denounces the some perspectives of Shakespeare, and how T.S. Eliot then, in a way, elaborates upon that to put value to the ideals of Shakespeare. So it is also very significant perspective to look at Shakespeare reception. We are all familiar, interlingual reception, intralingual reception, intersemiotic reception. How Shakespeare, how Edward Bond has written on Lear, how different characters of Shakespeare, they have been reworked by different scholars. It is a matter of research. Our bright research scholars, they must take such research questions for their research papers and for other purposes. How in the very language, how we have modified, how we have criticized, how we have elaborated, how we have interpolated such studies. Also, the other perspective, how Shakespeare has been received in Bhojpuri language, how Shakespeare has been received in Awadhi language, how Shakespeare has written, how the plays on Shakespeare have been written. You can see a lot of works in the Grimitiya literature, the literature of Suriname, the literature of Trinidad, Tobago, Mauritius. We have so many stories, Tufan, on Tempest. Even I have written a play, Shakespeare Ki Saath Raatein Hain, and I got a very, it was highly praised, and I received Bharatiya Sahisthya Puraskar on that. So how Shakespeare is such, this is why that we call myriad-minded Shakespeare. And maybe, this is why that Shakespeare is called, if you go by the ideas of Harold Bloom, he says that Shakespeare's genius is greater than the genius of Plato. Shakespeare's genius is greater than the genius of St. Augustine. Why? Because of the perception. And as our HOD Sahab was referring in the beginning, the statement of Legumin Kajamia, he was telling that Shakespeare is great. Why? Because Shakespeare is taking the message, Shakespeare is taking the storyline, Shakespeare is taking the impression from the common life. It's very simple, his pattern is simple. So something that he writes is very close to our heart. We see that a kind of verisimilitude is prevailing over there. This is one perspective that I would like to propose to the scholar over here. Communication perspective. This is a very important thing to understand, scholars. Nowadays, if we look at a text, because the scholars from other discipline, they have started asking questions. Somebody from the field of technology, somebody from the field of pharmacy, somebody from the field of law asked us that, you scholars of literature language, what are you doing there? So we are looking at the psyche of the world. We are developing our perspective on the case studies, because every text is a case study. So how would that text of Shakespeare communicate with us? We can have the qualitative perspective. We can have some qualitative work. You take some sonnet of Shakespeare. You find out the qualitative responses. You take some responses from the scholars around. You can find how the philosophy of Shakespeare is consoling us in different phases of life. The therapeutic perspective, you might be familiar, like music as therapy, literature as therapy, these things. These are the perspective. I was just, we can also look at Shakespeare under the impression of media criticism, how Shakespeare, are you referring that how Shakespeare has been commodified, how Shakespeare has become a metaphor? You are traveling, you are sitting, and anybody who is educated in the modern parameter, you are from where? You are, I'm a student of English. I'm a Shakespeare perhaps. You are appearing in an interview. So the chairman of the board, he might be, she might be from any other stream, but they might ask some questions on Shakespeare and so, because they're very popular, very popular. So how Shakespeare has become a metaphor for English, how Shakespeare has become a hegemonic identity, how the politics of Shakespeare is ruling over our academia, how that is prevailing. So on this day when we are celebrating the Shakespeare, we can also look at Shakespeare from this perspective. As the Indian context is very much bracketed in this very specific gathering, so Indian context, can we look at the patterns of Indian aesthetics in the works of Shakespeare? Can we look at because I have personally, I myself have seen more than 50 theses that are based on Indian poetics, application of Indian poetics, what is the Ras, Dhwani, Vakrokti, and others, Siddhant, Spota Siddhant, on the works of Shakespeare. So such works, such projects are quite important to look at. As the HOD was talking, and our Hon'ble Vice-Chancellor Sahib is from the Department of Political Science, and he was referring. So in these fields, there is a very significant political communication. How those who are holding certain position in any power setup, how they are communicating. Political communication can also be a very significant area to work at, to look at. So adaptation study is very popular. We know that right from Angur down to many texts have been reworked, and even in social media, you look at YouTube channel, you look at Instagram channel, even many reels are there on Shakespeare. It is not that new. Right from the beginning, I am not recalling here the exact reference, but at some place I saw that it was 1935 when we saw the first adaptation of Shakespeare. So you are also, no, not before that. You might be familiar with Durlabh Bandhu. Durlabh Bandhu. Who is in Durlabh Bandhu? Bharatan Harishan, 1878, published 1880, Merchant of Venice. And this is, when we look at the translation studies, so in Durlabh Bandhu, how he has Indianized the pattern, the trajectory of Shakespearean play. So we must, and therefore we see that he was not of one age, but of all times. Ben Jonson has very significantly mentioned this thing. Even you see, if you look at different streams of social sciences, my time is approaching, but I would like to take 2-3 more minutes. 2-3 more minutes. Freud. If you look at some interviews, some criticism of Freud also develops his idea of human psyche, human consciousness from some references of Shakespeare. You will see a lot of things. You will see a lot of ideas, popular culture, Shakespeare in popular culture, Shakespeare in humanities, and also if we look at the current scenario of interdisciplinarity, we can find a lot of things. Shakespeare in history, Shakespeare in polity, Shakespeare as economy, Shakespeare and different scientific perspective, Shakespeare and the cartographing of different cultural spaces. So these are the perspective, and we should see, irrespective of any ism, irrespective of any debate of the us and the other, irrespective of any debate of the Orient and the West, the East and the West, we should look at any piece of writing. We should look at any writer across the global literature as a product of as a collective product. Somebody is writing in Scotland, somebody is writing in England, somebody is writing in Turkey. So that is also the person is writing for the sake of humanity. Because no writing, no good writing, classical literature is something that moves across the time and climate, that moves across the bonds of isms, that moves for the sake of fresh air for humanity. So we should look at Shakespeare as a cult. We should look at Shakespeare as a collective consciousness of the human psyche at that specific time. How the ripples of that collective consciousness is approaching us, is affecting us, is transforming our knowledge, how we are doing that. So this is my proposition, and I wish you all a very happy English Language Day also, and very happy birthday of Shakespeare, and also let us see what can we do to accommodate, to associate Shakespeare in Indian culture. The other day, when you are writing, I saw a student from the University of Patna. He is pursuing his PhD at our university. So he acted a scene from Tempest in Bhojpuri language, Bhojpuri Shakespeare. So how the day you will adapt, or the student, the scholar, my dear students, scholars who are there, can you adapt some plays of Shakespeare? Can you adopt some scenes of Shakespeare? Can you adapt something from Shakespeare to in your native language? Because this is time that we are writing, and this will be a true love. Let's recall the lines of true love. Love is not time's fool. Love is not time's fool. Though rosy lips and cheeks within the bending sickle's compass come, love alters not with the brief hours and weeks, but bears it when we are at the edge of doom. If this is error and upon me proved, I never read nor no man ever loved. So let us love Shakespeare from this perspective. Let us add something to this. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you this August department, and thank you Harmony for giving a chance to speak on this occasion. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for telling us about a variety of perspectives that we can look Shakespeare from. For example, you talked about the hermeneutical, cultural studies, reception theory, interlingual, communicative, qualitative, therapeutic, and media criticism theories which we can apply on Shakespeare today. You also drew our attention to Durlabh Bandhu, an Indian adaptation of Merchant of Venice, and incidentally the first English play that was staged in this university in the very foundation year was Merchant of Venice itself. And at the end, you also inspired us to apply the Indian aesthetics, rasa and dhvani, upon Shakespearean plays, which definitely will have interesting results. So thank you, sir, for giving us a valuable time and this enlightening lecture. Now, I would like to request my colleague Dr. Kalyani Hajri to introduce our next speaker and invite him to the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Patra. It is a pleasure to introduce Professor Vipin Kumar Singh in this esteemed gathering. Dr. Vipin Kumar Singh is the Professor and Head Department of English and Foreign Languages, Dean School of Languages and Literature, Central University of South Bihar, Gaya, India. He has teaching experience of 15 years. He has published 28 research papers in various journals and 5 books. He has delivered expert lectures at resource person at more than 21 places and presented papers in seminars and conferences at more than 35 places. He has served various academic and administrative positions at Indira Gandhi National Tribal University, Amarkantak, and Central University of South Bihar, Gaya. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalyani. First of all, a very good afternoon to all of you, and my warm greetings to Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Dean, and HOD along with the entire organizing team. I also extend my greetings to my senior academician colleague, Singh ji. Since I am out of town and I have to get my train, so I will speak for a few minutes and underline certain things about Shakespeare. Since the subject I am supposed to speak on, as Professor Singh spoke, that Shakespeare today in Indian context, so my talk will be segregated in two parts. One will deal with why Shakespeare today, and other why Shakespeare is relevant in Indian context. So as far as this part is concerned, Shakespeare has a universal appeal. His writings appears to have a universal appeal across the globe, across gender, time, and space. He is loved across the globe, respected across the globe, and adopted, acknowledged across the globe simply because his profound understanding of human psychology. If we see the entire world, the entire culture appears to be than just objectification of or psychic perspectives or psychological understanding or psychological perceptions. And Shakespeare, in this sense, has a profound understanding. When he spoke for a man, he spoke as a true, we can say, patriarch. But when he spoke for a woman, he turned out to be a feminist, robust feminist at the same time. That was his understanding of human minds. That's why when Virginia Woolf in her Aroma Function spoke that she found only Shakespeare having a man-womanly mind. A man-womanly mind means a person who has a balanced understanding of both the perspectives, both the psychology, male and female psychology. That is. So, he has a universal appeal. Why today he is relevant? Because of his understanding of human psychology. And another point why he is so relevant and so appealing because he wrote on human sentiments. He wrote on human feelings, human emotions. For example, if we take his tragedies, then his tragedies of Lear, Othello, Macbeth, etc., they are not about individual tragedies. No, not about we can say here what is called broadly called tragic flaw. No, they are human flaws. So he was quite familiar and at home in locating the human flaws from which all of us appear to suffer more or less. Othello deals with jealousy, Lear with anger, Macbeth with ambition, and Hamlet with over-speculativeness. These, in some way, these are human flaws, not tragic flaws. And because of his writing on human sentiments, human feelings, he becomes so outstanding and so relevant. Why? Because everything can change. Everything can change. But human feelings or psychology or sentiments never change. Across the globe, across the country, they remain the same. We react in the same. When we are sad, we will cry. When we are happy, we will laugh. This is the human reactions and over which he wrote. And he was so confident on his understanding of human sentiments and emotions that he wrote, Professor Singh cited the last line of his sonnets, Let Me Not to the Marriage of Two Minds. If this be erred and upon me proved, I'll never read nor no man ever loved. Means if I am proved wrong in my writing and in my assessments, in my declarations, pronunciations, then I accept. I accept and I declare I'll never read. Means I have never written of any works. But at the same time, I also declare that nor no one ever left. Means since today, the time he wrote, no man has ever loved in true sense of the term. So that was his understanding of human thought. And another another point which made him relevant was his creating of dramatic situations where his audience had his readers could identify with the characters, who could identify in that created in that dramatic situations as if we are one of the characters and we are having same feeling, and same we will have same human reactions. So these are few of the points which made. There are number of things which could be spoken about Shakespeare. These are few in general terms which made Shakespeare special and distinguished from other writers and dramatists. And while the second part, why Shakespeare is so relevant in Indian context today, so I will like to point out here two things. That when Shakespeare, just we have to make just think and make a parallel, a similarity between two different cultures, British cultures and our Indian cultures. If we point out and if we mark, then we will find that the society that he described in his place was feudalistic society. He talked about feudalistic order in society, which in India we had almost since the beginning, and still we have. Feudalism appears to rule of society or family, and at the same time, the society or every society we can say is patriarchal in human nature, in its structure, in its we can say orientation. Every society, Indian society is also patriarchal. British society was also patriarchal, and he's focusing on that nature of society makes him special and makes him relevant even today in India. Why? Because suppose there are a number of references which we can give, but two references I would like to cite. One from The Merchant of Venice, where, where Portia, the character heroine, we can in a sense one of the protagonists because she is no more no less influential than Bassanio and Antonio. So we can say there is a scene when Portia is forced to marry the man who solves the riddles, casket riddles developed by her father, dead father. Now here, what is important that Portia's dead father has made a will that if Portia disregards his will, the entire his property will not be given to his daughter Portia. And Portia is just entangled in that situation and says that the will of a living daughter is being curbed by the will of a dead father. We can say in a privileged Indian society that a woman is forced to marry, a girl is forced to marry a boy of her parents' choice. Very similar pattern, similarity that we can trace. There are a number of dramatic situations which can be made, which can be pointed out to why Shakespeare is relevant. This is because of his understanding of psychology and human nature. Human nature. That whether it was England or in India or some other country, situations will be same. Why? Because our human reactions will be same. Where Shakespeare appears to have a mastery. And another thing, why he becomes one, why he can be, his relevance can be traced in Indian society because our belief in supernatural element and other things as well. Supernatural element is one of them. We do believe. At that time, Elizabethans believed. They did believe, they believed, and today we believe. So, this is because of his understanding of human psychology and human belief system. Why Shakespeare becomes appears to be universal? Why that's why? Because in this sense it can be pointed out. And another, it is a why Shakespeare is so much relevant and significant in India. Why? Because there are certain practices which are society and which Shakespeare was sensitive enough to mark out 500 years back. Think for a while, five in 100 years back, what was our society, and when he wrote what was there, and what was the issues, issue was dowry, evil of dowry. In his more than 10 plays, he raised that issue of dowry. In the mind of which Bassanio decides to marry Porcio only because of her property. In Measure for Measure, dowry plays a pivotal role as a subject, as a theme of the play. Why? If you take, for example, the Measure for Measure, there are three characters, lady characters, four lady characters, female characters, and they all appear to be the victim of this evil practice, bad practice of dowry. Juliet, sorry, who is made pregnant by her lover, by her boyfriend. They had married even, secret married, but they did not declare their marriage only because of the preparation of a divorce. As Shakespeare, only because of dowry. Claudio, her lover, could have declared his marriage, but he did not declare. Why? Because he had to take dowry from Juliet's parents. Claudio's sister, her Isabella, who is on the verge of joining a nunnery. She has become a nun. She has joined the convent, and she is not shown because whether she is the victim of dowry or not, but we can guess, we can argue that she is also fallen the victim of this practice. Why? Because she she decides to become a nun. There are a number of logics because she is of that nature. She has a spiritual bent of mind. That's why she decides to become a nun. But thing is not like this. Thing is not like this. Why? Because her brother Claudio himself observed such a body gesture and language, such a, we can say, physical gesture that Isabella appears to have, which can evoke the feelings, warm feelings of any man. He observes himself. There is another character, Angelo, who tries to blackmail Isabella, who tries to molest her. And he tries to force her, if you will not submit your chastity and virginity to me, I will ensure your brother be beheaded. And when Isabella said, just as no, I will expose you, Angelo, he said, who will believe thee, Isabel? Who will believe thee? And Isabella, means at that time, women were taken lightly. And in even today we say कि औरतों के बाद क्या ले रहे हो? Means we are just tended to take them lightly. That we should not. Means this is just the human sentiments that he has exploited in his place. And at the end, since you proposed Isabella that he accepted, and here the play ends. At the end, Isabella also gets married because she had not to pay dowry. It is overdone. She becomes a prostitute, joins brothel. Why? Because she has nothing. Another lady character in the same play, Mariana, who was betrothed, who was engaged with Angelo, but she loses her dowry with her brother in a shipwreck. And even after engagement, Angelo denied to marry Mariana simply because she has no dowry to offer. Why should I marry her? Means such a strong issue that he dealt with his place. Sorry. So these are the social practices. Long back, we can say even Dubois and all feminists, Virginia Woolf and other feminists, Shakespeare was sensitive enough and smart enough, we can say, to locate, to point out, to declare marriage as an institution which plays a pivotal role in subordination of women. And that's why, just can say, in the concrete way, in a surface level, if we just segregate, we will find that his tragedies, Shakespeare's tragedies depicts life after marriage. Why Shakespeare's tragedies depict life before marriage. And this is the reason that Shakespeare's heroines turned out to be stronger and more intelligent, more witty than his male protagonist. And in the same way, if we say that in his tragedy, why his male protagonists appear to be stronger. Even Lady Macbeth not be even her own identity. She bears no name, just Lady Macbeth. Means he again hints at those practices. Can a woman be identified only with the identity of her husband or her father? As he raised in much ado about nothing also. So there are a number of places where he has raised those issues which become, those practices and issues which become more and more relevant even in Indian society. That are his exploitation of human nature, human sentiments, human feelings, make him significant, relevant across the time, across the globe, and even India today. Thank you so much. That's all I had to speak. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Bipin, for telling us about the relevance of William Shakespeare and highlighting the fact that Shakespeare did not write individual tragedies, but wrote about human flaws. In King Lear, he didn't talk about just the fall of a dynasty, but talked about how a person in great corridor of power, in the seat of power, can also become a prey to flattery and insincere praise. In giving us example from Macbeth and Merchant of Venice, you also told about the gender-specific aspects of William Shakespeare, even though at the time cross-dressing was pursued and the Globe Theatre was an all-male troupe. In the 20th century, the all-female troupe also could be possible in the plays of Shakespeare. And to describe a lady like Lady Macbeth, a lady who would say that if Duncan were my newborn babe, still I would kill him. And the way she would invoke the poison from hell in order to suckle into the baby, the poison, and kill. that kind of a depiction could only be possible in the plays of Shakespeare, at least till the Renaissance period. And that is why a lot of people also question Shakespeare's own sexuality, whether he was a male at all. So thanks a lot, sir, for pointing out so many different divergent aspects about Shakespeare and telling us that Shakespeare is not only relevant in the Indian context, but also worldwide. Now, before we move to the next speaker, let me now request Anand Kumar, the students of MA English first year, to recite a small portion of the soliloquy from a place that you have recently quoted, Macbeth.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to recite a famous soliloquy of Shakespeare. The soliloquy which I am going to recite is taken from Macbeth, Act 5, Scene 5. By this time in the play, Lady Macbeth had died and Macbeth's army was marching against him. So at this situation, Macbeth philosophically utters this statement, and he says about the futility and he shows the nihilistic approach towards the life. And he also says about the inevitability of death. So the soliloquy is: tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time, and all the yesterdays have lost its value. The way to dusty death, out, out, brief candle. Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Unlike the soliloquy of Macbeth, the tales of Shakespeare do signify a lot. And now, the next speaker that we have the privilege of listening to today is amongst us here in person. Professor Amarnath Prasad has been teaching in English at Jayaprakash Narayan University, Chhapra. He has authored more than 50 books, out of which 46 are available on Amazon. He is also the editor of the international journal, The Quintessential, and the journal Unheard Melody. Some of his books have been bestsellers, especially in the field of academia. And let me just read out the titles of some of his books. For example, Arundhati Roy's God of Small Things, A Critical Elucidation, British and Indian English Literature, Recreating John Keats. And currently, he is also, one of his poems, based on a farmer, the priest of nature, is also prescribed in the BA syllabus of Sant Baba Gargi University, Aurangabad, Maharashtra. And so we are privileged to have you amongst us, and we're very excited to listen to you on the topic today.
नमो विश्वसृजे पूर्वं विश्वं तद्नु बिभ्रते अथ विश्वस्य संघत्रे तुभ्यं त्रिधायसितात्मने. Honorable Chairperson of this symposium, Professor Sanjay Srivastava, our Honorable Vice-Chancellor of this Central University, my younger brother, Professor Prasoon Dutta Singh, the Dean and Patron of this symposium, Professor Bimlesh Kumar Singh, the Head of Department of this institution, and previous keynote speaker, Professor R.P. Singh, Professor Vipin Singh, and some others, and all the other staffs and dignitaries of this institution, and my dear students. I am really very pleased to come over here to deliver my lecture on the relevance of Shakespeare in modern context. First of all, I would like to extend my heartiest thanks to the Honorable Vice-Chancellor, sir, because through some news channels and newspapers and through Prasoon Dutta Singh and Dr. Bimlesh Kumar Singh, I have come to know that since he has joined, the university is taking root, it is gaining ground by leaps and bounds, and the president has also come here, and the university is going to gain ground in all the walks of life, particularly in the field of academy and in some other fields also. So I am very, very thankful to sir that the university is taking wings to fly freely in the open sky, and the withered plant is now getting the rain, and it is flourishing with great prosperity. So I am very, very thankful, sir. And so far as Shakespeare, this topic Shakespeare is concerned, this is a very great topic, big topic, and it can't be accumulated and it can't be discussed within this short span of time. He is so great. And the greatness of Shakespeare, at the one hand, and on the other hand, we should also try our best to understand Shakespeare with new perspective, particularly so far as national education policy is concerned. We today are laying much stress on Indian myths, culture, and so many great authors, more greater than Shakespeare. There are so many great authors, not to speak of only in Sanskrit literature and in Hindi and Sanskrit literature, but there are some great authors even in our local language. Government is focusing, the government is laying stress that is called local to vocal. So in this respect, we are doing a lot, particularly in this Bhojpuri Kshetra. You will be surprised to know that there are so many great saints poets who have contributed a lot. But the irony is that they have been written in the language Bhojpuri, and the Bhojpuri language is a marginalized language, and the government is not paying attention to such a marginalized language, and all the great works, all the great metaphors, similes, and all other poetic devices which can be seen in the great works of saint literature, particularly in Saran and Motihari, Champaran district. You will be surprised to know if you study those great works. So, the study of Shakespeare in the Persian context should be studied, should be researched in the light of our local languages also. And a comparative study of Bhojpuri, like Bhikhari Thakur, Mahendra Misir, and Sant Kavi Lakshmi Sakhi, and so many other great saint poets must be compared with English poets, English writers, English playwrights. And in this respect, we must try our best to focus our own language. We must be proud of our own language. And this is the reason that how colonialism came to India and how we being the students of English, and we are being taught in the first year from Chaucer to modern age. And we are unaware of great writers like Kalidas, Bhavbhuti, Bhas, Sudrak, Harsvardhan, Magh, Dandi. So many great writers are there in India, and we are unaware of this fact, and we generally say that Shakespeare is the greatest dramatist of the world. That is not good. It is not a good interpretation. Shakespeare may be called the great poet of England. He may also be called the great poet and dramatist of all the European languages, but he can't be called the greatest poet and dramatist of the world. Because so far as in India, Mahakavi Kalidas, Kavi Kul Kamal Kaladhar, Kavivar Kalidas is present here. You can't compare him. And I am not speaking, but Max Muller, the great philosopher who came to India and he studied a lot. And in the book of Sanskrit literature, Dr. Prasoon Dutta Singh very well knows that Baldev Upadhyay has written a very good book, and that is Sanskrit Sahitya Ka Itihas. And in that book, he has compared Shakespeare with Kalidas, and he says, I quote the line, that Kavi Kul, just listen, what a beautiful observation, what a fine contrast he has presented between the two great dramatists of the world, Kalidas and Shakespeare. It is being spoken by, written by Max Muller and quoted by Baldev Upadhyay in Sanskrit Sahitya Ka Itihas. He said, कवि कुल कमल कलाधर कईवर कालिदास की कमनीय कलेवर कोमल कविता. What a fine alliteration. कवि कुल कमल कलाधर कईवर कालिदास की कमनीय कलेवर कोमल कविता की तुलना पश्चिमी विद्वान शेक्सपियर से करना अपनी मूर्खता का परिचय देना है, क्योंकि कालिदास का सिर्फ एक नाटक अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम को एक पलड़ा पर रख दिया जाए और शेक्सपियर के 38 नाटक दूसरे पलड़े पर रख दिए जाएं, तब भी उसके सारे नाटक इस एक नाटक की बराबरी नहीं कर सकते. So such a fine observation. So you can say, and other important quote, I am just quoting you by Ben Jonson, who is a close friend of William Shakespeare. He was a university product, and you know that how he has given the term European. In one of his poems, he says, "Tram by Britain." He used the word Britain. Just listen, my dear students. He used the word. What he said, "Tram my Britain, thou hast one to show, to whom all the sins of Europe homage owe. He was not of an age, but for all times." So he is mentioning Europe, he is mentioning Britain, he is not mentioning the whole world. So a new interpretation should be started in Indian context, and this is why so many types of symposiums, so many types of conferences and workshops are being organized every day in every nook and corner of the world in order to focus, in order to upgrade our great culture, great tradition, great literature, which is hidden. It is now time to dive deep into the depth of our great literature and dig out the diamonds and pearls which are always hidden beneath the surface. So I mean to say that when we are discussing Shakespeare, no doubt, he has observed almost all the aspects of life, in every field, in every characterization, not to speak of only theme, but even language. Because in literature, two things are very, very important. One is, as Matthew Arnold said, poetic truth and poetic beauty. So, observed on this criteria, if you study the works of Shakespeare, you will see that how his works are full of poetic truth as well as poetic beauty. That means he has not expressed his ideas of thoughts and visions, not only in a dry and monotonous way, in a straightforward manner, but with the help of some beautiful images, some beautiful symbols, which have become today a great matter of literature. So, metaphor about metaphor, generally it is said that metaphor is the dress of thoughts. And to Shakespeare, metaphor is not the dress of thought, but the thought itself. It is often said that to Shakespeare, metaphor is not the dress of thought, but the thought itself. So, but if you study in Sanskrit literature, generally it is said that Upma Kalidasasya Bharave Artha Gauravam Dandina Padalalityam Maghe Santi Trayaguna. So many great writers are there. But unfortunately, we are not taking interest. We do not understand Sanskrit. And this is why this great literature is not being focused, not being researched. And now it is time to discuss all these things. So the greatness of Shakespeare, I mean to say that in every field, I have read so many books on Shakespeare, but so far the great book Ligwen Kajamia, my reverend teacher, Professor Uday Shankar Ukhayar, who is no more, he used to say that this is not a book, but this is the Srimad Bhagavad Gita of English literature. He used this term. the book of Ligui and Kajamia. So at the end of the essay on Shakespeare, what Ligui and Kajamia says, that is this is the very epigrammatic sentence. In a very epigrammatic way, he has presented almost all the great aspects of William Shakespeare. What he says? He says, free of every theory. Free of every theory, expecting all of lives, rejecting nothing, appealing to the most various man, as to a rude workman, as to a wit. Shakespeare's drama is a great river of life and beauty, and all who thirst for the art and the truth, the comic and the satire, the tender and the light, can stoop to drink from its water, and almost every instant of their changing mood finds only one drop to slake their thirst. Not to speak of the whole river, but single drop of water of this great river of literature is enough to slake your thirst. It was the observation of the great historian Ligui Kajamia. So in this observation, you see that how he has used the first word, free of every theory. This is the main criteria for the greatness of any great writer. If the writer is bound by any caste, class, creed, and any ism, then he can't be called a great writer or universal writer. If you want to become a great writer like Kalidas and other great writers, you should be free from any theory. Because in each and every drama, you will find that Shakespeare is not supporting anything. In Othello, you can't say that whether he is inside with Othello or inside with Iago. Sometimes he favors Iago also. He never favors or disfavors. He simply expresses his emotions in a very beautiful way, how Iago has expressed that in following him, I follow but myself. In following him, I follow but myself. Heaven is my judge, not I for love and duty, but seeming so for my peculiar end. I am not what I am. So this is the observation of Iago, and that can be seen even today. Why Shakespeare is alive? Because in each and every age, you will find that Shakespeare is alive. Why? What's the reason? Because there are some certain things. The first thing is that he is free of every theory. Because most of the writers in literature, you will find that sometimes they have become lopsided. Recently, I have read a observation about Arundhati Roy and how he has quoted about a lopsided attitude. That means he seems to be influenced by Marxist attitude. And if you are bound by any lopsided attitude, you can't be called a great writer. Writer must be free from any type of ism, any type of party politics, any type of associations. Only then he can be great. And in this respect, he is great. Shakespeare will be great. And he will always be great forever. Because in his works, if you will find that two important things are there. Whether in the case of tragedies, tragicomedies or histories or anything else, you will find that two important elements are going side by side in each and every drama of William Shakespeare, and that is love and music. Where there is love, where there is music, music is bound to come. So love and music, these are the two elements, and even today in this age of science, we see that these two elements are always present. This is why Shakespeare is present even today. And the same concept in film industry you will find in the works of in the films made by Raj Kapoor. You know Raj Kapoor, a great showman, and right from his film Ah and Aag in 1942, and up to you see Hina in 1986. If you study his works and his reactions and his role, you will find that two elements are there in his great films. One is love and the other is music. Later on, he has also introduced philosophy in my Mera Naam Joker, in Satyam Shivam Sundaram, in so many films also. He has added some other elements also. He also added romance in Bobby. So he very well know the pulse of the people. the imagination of the people, the emotion of the people. And this is why Raj Kapoor was great, Shakespeare was great. Because at that time, you know, when Shakespeare was born, ghosts, witches, and such type of supernatural elements were present. And in each and every drama, he had given all those elements in order to suit the sentiments of the contemporary time. So this is the very, very important thing. And so far, the language of Shakespeare is concerned, metaphors are concerned. You will find that how he has beautifully present the metaphorical statement, metaphorical observations in a very beautiful and very poetic and connotative manner. One of the very important lines in Macbeth, I will tell you, just quote, that how he has presented the language in a very beautiful manner. He has distorted language in order to suit the sentiments. What he says, will all great Neptune's water wash this blood clean from my hand? Will all great Neptune's water wash this blood clean from my hand? No, no, this hand will rather the multitudinous seas in Carnadine, making the green one red. So if you analyze this, the lines, you'll find that how the great craftsman, the great poet, has made use of language in a very fine way, and he has used some cacophonic sounds and euphonic sound so as to suit the character of the contemporary situations. So whenever he has to present how he has presented the words multitudinous seas in Carnadine, in I.A. Richards has also given the term, and he has focused that sometimes such type of big words are essential in order to suit the sentiments of the contemporary time, contemporary situations. So if you judge on the basis of language, basis of metaphor, you will find that he is great. But it's other matter that if you study Kumar Sambhavam by Kalidas, what a fine metaphor he has said. What he says in Kumar Sambhavam, Tatha samaksham data manobhavam pinakina bhagna manodhatha sati nininda rupam hridayana parvati priyesu saubhag phalai charuta. And he has taken the very fine image of goddess Parvati and the life of forest and her body, that she said, her mother says that manista santigriyasu devata tapa Vaso kocho tavakam bapu padam sahet bharmarasya pelevam nah puna patratina. I mean to say that there are so many examples. It will take lectures upon lectures. It will take a lot of time to discuss and make comparison between Shakespeare and so many other great writers like Bhas also. If you read Bhas, Swapna Vasav Dattam, already Sri Aurobindo has adapted this drama, and he has written Vasav Dattam. And Bhas has written Swapna Vasav Dattam. And about Bhas it is said, Bhaso Haso Kavikul Guru Kalidasu. So I mean to say, if you study Bhas Swapna Vasav Dattam, the very first couplet has been molded, has been written in such a fine artistic manner that it has got pun, it has got double meaning, and all the four characters are present in the very first starting couplet of the drama. What it says? Udayan Venda Suvarnau, Vasav Datta Balau Balasyatam, Padmavati Tirna Purnau, Basanta Karmau Bhujau Patam. अब इस लाइन को आप पढ़ेंगे तो आपको घोर आश्चर्य होगा कि इसमें चार पात्र हैं. एक राजा उदयन है, दूसरा जो उसमें दूसरी जो महारानी है वासव दत्ता, और तीसरी एक साइड हीरोइन इसमें जो कह सकते हैं सहनायिका, वो है पद्मावती, और चौथा जो उसको फूल शेक्सपियर कहता है, जोकर कहता है, उसको बसंतक है, उसमें एक पात्र है. और देखो यह पद जो है, ये प्रार्थना है, भगवान की प्रार्थना है. कभी भी नाटक होता था हमारे यहाँ तो भगवान के प्रार्थना से होता था. और पहले इस तरह के शेक्सपियर की रचनाओं में नहीं है. हम लोग पहले जो है ना, नाद्यंते प्रविशति सूत्रधार ऐसा लिखा जाता है. किसी नाटक में देखा नांदी के बाद सूत्रधार डायरेक्टर आता है. पहले नांदी होती थी, प्रार्थना होती थी. अब देखिए लाइन जो कहा, तो इसमें चारों पात्र का नाम आ गया, लेकिन वो मीनिंग नहीं है, उसमें पन अलंकार है, इसमें डबल मीनिंग है. उदयन बिंदु, उदयन राजा है, यहाँ उदयन का अर्थ है उगते हुए सूरज को नमस्कार है. क्या ब्यूटीफुल, चारों पात्र आ गए हैं। उदयन वेन्दु सुवर्णौ वासो दत्ता बलौ बलस्य त्वाम पद्मावती तीर्ण पूर्णौ बसंत कर्मौ भुजौ पाताम। मेरे भुजाओं से मेरी रक्षा करें, बलराम जी भुजाओं से मेरी रक्षा करें। तो दिस इज द ग्रेट हेरिटेज, ग्रेट लेगेसी ऑफ इंडिया एंड न्यू फोकस। Such type of ideas must be researched, they must be studied, and so many such type of comparative studies must be done. So let me quote some, because the time is very short. I will take only 5 minutes, sir. Because we are here standing in Motihari, and just near Motihari there is a mutt, and that is near Sattar Ghat. That is Lakshmi Sakhi Mutt. I have edited a book some 7 years back. When I paid a visit to this great monastery, I was really surprised, being a student of English. I was really surprised to see 4 great granthas, and that is Amar Siddhi, Amar Kahani, Amar Vilas, Amar Faras. And all these 4 great works have been written in Bhojpuri language. But Bhojpuri is already marginal language. और उसमें बहुत सी किताबें ऐसी थी जो सर गल गई थी, मैंने उसको फिर से फोटोस्टेट करवाया, उसको फिर जो है किताब भी छपवा दिया है। 1000 कॉपी, 1 कॉपी मैं वहाँ लाया हूँ, सर को मैं भेंट करूंगा। तो मैं अब आपको इस थोड़ा सा समय, 5 मिनट ज्यादा नहीं, 5 मिनट समय लूंगा और उसमें बताऊंगा, आपको आश्चर्य होगा, समझ में आएगा। एक पद के आधार पर ही आप समझ सकते हैं, बिकॉज आप सभी साहित्य के स्टूडेंट हैं, सभी आप साहित्य के गतिविधियों से, कोनोटेटिव स्टाइल से और जो भी पोएटिक डिवाइस से सबसे परिचित हैं। तो जरा इस पद को, बाबा के एक पद में बोल रहा हूँ, भोजपुरी में है, उसको आप जरा गौर से सुनिए और अब देखिए कि उसमें कैसे बाबा ने, कैसे एक्सटेंडेड मेटाफर जिसको अंग्रेजी में हम कहते हैं, जिसमें मिल्टन में मिलता है और शेक्सपियर में मिलता है, सब कवियों में एक्सटेंडेड मेटाफर का प्रयोग नहीं है। श्री अरविंदो के रचनाओं में है एक्सटेंडेड मेटाफर। मेटाफर का यूज करना आसान है, लेकिन एक्सटेंडेड मेटाफर थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट काम है। वो कालिदास में है, शेक्सपियर, तुलसीदास जी में है, सूरदास में है। तो बाबा ने एक पद लिखा है, पहला जो पद है, तो वो कहते हैं कि भोजपुरी में पद है, वो अपनी आत्मकथात्मक परिचय देते हैं और लिखते हैं कि सुनो सखी, सखी संप्रदाय के थे संत कवि लक्ष्मी सखी जी। यही टेरुआ मठ में उनका आश्रम है, आप जा सकते हैं, यहाँ से बहुत नजदीक है। जहाँ केसरिया है वहाँ के बगल में, पुल क्रॉस करते ही उनका मठ है, और नदी के किनारे है, बड़ा रमणीक जगह पर है। मैं उस पर अभी काम भी कर रहा हूँ, बहुत खोज कर रहा हूँ इस संदर्भ में। और अभी तक मेरी एक आने वाली किताब है सारण के संत, तो उस संदर्भ में मैंने 22 संतों को सारण में चुना है। अभी तक 20 संत का काम हो चुका है और सब पर मेरे बहुत गंभीर आर्टिकल हैं, और सारे आर्टिकल को जोड़कर एक किताब आने वाली है, इस साल निकल जाएगी वो, ठीक है ना, सारण के संत है। तब आप उसको समझेंगे कितना ग्रेट वर्क है। उसमें बहुत से मैंने ट्रांसलेट, भोजपुरी को इंग्लिश में मैंने ट्रांसलेट किया है, कई जर्नल में पब्लिश भी हो चुका है, और अभी मैं काम जारी है, मेरा जारी है उस पर ट्रांसलेट करने का। तो उस पद को जरा मैं बताता हूँ, उसको भी पद को मैंने ट्रांसलेट किया है। तो एक तरफ बाबा ने अपनी आत्मकथात्मक परिचय दिया है कि मैं क्या हूँ, दूसरे तरफ योगिक फिलॉसफी है, और तीसरे तरफ एक बहुत बड़ा ग्रेट ट्रूथ ऑफ लाइफ है। तो बाबा लिखते हैं, संत कवि लक्ष्मी सखी जी महाराज, कि सुनु सखी सुनु कहब कछु और, सुनु सखी सुनु कहब कछु और, सारण जिला तकथ अमनौर। अमनौर एक जगह है, अमनौर है ना। तो सारण जिला तकथ अमनौर, कायथ कुल में जन्मले बौर। जाति से कायस थे, तो कहते हैं कि कायस में लोग तो काफी पढ़े लिखे होते हैं, उसमें तो कोई बकलोल बुरबा का इस तरह जो है बौरा आदमी तो होता नहीं है। लेकिन देखो कितना अच्छा वर्ड है बौर, और बौर को जरा ट्रांसलेट करके देखिए इंग्लिश में, पसीना आ जाएगा। 15 वर्ड है लगभग इंग्लिश में, लेकिन बौर को आप इंग्लिश में पैरेलल कोई वर्ड नहीं है, हमने बौर को बौरे लिख दिया है। इसलिए कि बौर जो है, सबसे पहले बौराह तो शंकर भगवान थे, संत शंकर भगवान, उससे भी बौराह कोई आदमी है। उसको स्लो विटेड भी नहीं कह सकते, उसको मोरोन भी नहीं कह सकते, डोल्ड डंस और ये सब कहना तो बेकार है, फुल भी नहीं कह सकते हैं। बौराह बौर है, कितनी बड़ी बात है। सुनो सखी सुनो, सुनु सखी सुनु कहब कछु और, सारण जिला तकथ अमनौर, कायथ कुल में जन्मले बौर। राम लखन फल फरी गए दौर, दौर दोनों ओर, अंदर भी बाहर भी, संस्कृत शब्द है। राम लखन फल फरी गए दौर, आज जन्मभूमि कभी पूजलहूँ गौर, गौर माने यहाँ गौर गणेश, मैंने माता पिताजी मेरे गौरी और गणेश की पूजा किए थे, उसी के प्रताप से क्या हुआ कि मिली गई सतगुरु माथे चढ़ल मौर। आई वाज क्राउंड विद अचीवमेंट, है ना। कह रहे हैं कि इस तरह मुझे अचीवमेंट नहीं मिला, ये माता पिता का प्रभाव था। बचपन में उन्होंने गौर गणेश की पूजा की थी। देखिए लोक संस्कृति, हमारी भारतीय संस्कृति को मानते थे। उन्होंने कहा कि सुनु सखी सुनु कहब कछु और, सारन जिला तकथ अमन और, काय थे कुल में जनमले बौर, राम लखन फल फड़ गए दौर, आ जन्मभूमि कभी पूजलहूँ गौर, तब मिले गए सतगुरु माथे चढ़ल मौर, तो जियते मर गई तो लौकल ठौर। देखिए यह एक लाइन जो है पूरे वर्ल्ड की फिलोसफी इसमें है, जियते मर गई नहीं तो आई गॉट द मिशन ऑफ लाइफ। कब है जियते में, जिंदा हमको लग रहा है कि जिंदे हैं, लेकिन काम क्रोध मद लोभ जो ड्रॉस ऑफ डिजायर है उसको हमने क्या किया, जला दिया, बर्न कर दिया। उसके बाद फिर मैं उस ठौर को पहचाना, कैसे मिशन, कैसे आदमी जाता है वहां पर पहुंचने के लिए क्या जरूरी है। और गुरु का सानिध्य होना बहुत जरूरी है, सच्चा गुरु मिलना जरूरी है। इसमें देखिए प्रोसेस बताया गया है। एक तो पहले माता पिता का प्रभाव होना चाहिए, और दूसरा जो आपके अचीवमेंट के लिए सच्चा गुरु का मिलना बहुत जरूरी है। तो सब मिल गए सतगुरु माथे चढ़ल मौर, तो जियते मर गईनी तो लौकल ठौर, तो गुरु जी देहनी ज्ञान के लौर। लौर में लाठी, है ना, बहुत से ऑब्सोलीट वर्ड्स है उन्होंने बाबा ने इस्तेमाल किया है। तो गुरु जी देहनी ज्ञान के लौर, तो झटपट मारल माछर सौर। अब देखिए माछर में मछली और सौर में सौरा मछली, चारंगा मछली, जो बहुत स्लिपरी फिश है, जिसको पकड़ना आसान नहीं है। यहाँ माइंड से देखिए, यहाँ पर देखिए इमेज पकड़िए, यहाँ माइंड से तुलना के एक्सटेंडेड मेटाफर यहाँ शुरू होता है, ठीक है। तो माइंड भी हमारा उसी तरह चंचल है जैसा कि सौरा मछली है। तो गुरु जी देहनी ज्ञान के लौर, तो पहला काम क्या किया, झटपट। ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट वर्ड है कि गुरु का आदेश हुआ तो कोई उसमें मीन मेक नहीं, कोई इफ्स एंड बट्स नहीं, झटपट मारल माछर सौर, उस मछली को मैंने मारा। अब देखिए मछली मरने से नहीं होगा, उसके बाद क्या होगा, तो पाकल ब्रह्म यज्ञ कर भौर, भौर में पकाया। अब देखिए भौर माने आग नहीं कह सकते, फायर इसका इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन नहीं हो सकता। अब क्या होगा, अब मैं जब ट्रांसलेट कर रहा था तो मैं परेशान हो गया। फायर यदि मैं लिख दूं, मेरी जितनी किताबें हैं वो सब अमेजन पर है, तो मैं इस व्यू से लिखता हूँ कि मेरी रचनाओं को जर्मनी के भी आदमी पढ़ेगा, तो वो पढ़ता है यदि तो क्या समझेगा फायर का। फायर का तो मतलब हुआ भाई 1-2 घंटा में आग बुझ गया। वो बाबा नहीं कह रहे हैं, वो कह रहे हैं बोरसी का आग है या घुनसारी का आग है, रात का आग जो है सुबह में भी तड़प रहा है, वो है भौर, है ना। तो कह रहे हैं कि जब उस मछली को जब मर गई, मछली माइंड जब मर गई, तो इसको क्या, उसके बाद का प्रोसेस क्या है, पाकल ब्रह्म यज्ञ, ब्रह्म अग्नि रूपी उस भौर में मैंने इसको टोस्ट किया। पाकल ब्रह्म यज्ञ कर भौर, अखैलो में साध संत मिली जौर, तेरुआ मठ में ऐनी धौर, तब मिली जुली भगत बनावल ठौर, तो लक्ष्मी सखी के सुंदर पियवा, लक्ष्मी सखी के सुंदर पियवा, आ गले लग जा मेरे दौर। क्योंकि हर पद में बाबा का यह लाइन है, लगभग 10,000 पद इस तरह का उन्होंने लिखा है, और हर पद में यह लाइन अंत में आता है कि लक्ष्मी सखी के सुंदर पियवा, द ऑलमाइटी गॉड, द मोस्ट हैंडसम हस्बैंड ऑफ लक्ष्मी सखी। वो हस्बैंड के रूप में मानते हैं अपने को, पत्नी भाव में वो भगवान को देखते हैं, पति भाव में देखते हैं। तो इसलिए यह पद में हर जगह आता है कि लक्ष्मी सखी के सुंदर पियवा, आ गले लग जा मेरे दौड़। अब देखिए कितनी क्लासिक रचना है, इसमें कैसे इमेज जो है बढ़ रहा है। एक ही इमेज है, मछली का इमेज है, लाठी का इमेज है, फिर पकाने का इमेज है, फिर खाने का इमेज। अब ये खाने का गस्टेटरी इमेज कितना ब्यूटीफुल है, ये वही काम हम कर रहे हैं। उस मछली को खाने में जो आनंद है, तो यहाँ बोलने में मुझे आनंद आ रहा है, आप सुन रहे हैं तो वहीं आपको आनंद आ रहा है। क्या ब्यूटीफुल यहाँ ऑब्जर्वेशन है, ठीक है ना। तो इसको ऐसे ऐसे पद, मैंने एक सिंपल उदाहरण दिया क्योंकि अभी यह समय नहीं है बहस करने का इस तरह का, लेकिन इस तरह का कहीं आयोजन हो, विशेष आयोजन हो हमारे संस्कृति के ऊपर, हमारे इस लोकलिटी के ऊपर, लोकल को वोकल बनाने के ऊपर, तो इस पर विशेष रूप से चर्चा हो सकती है। और उस पर मैं काम भी कर रहा हूँ और मुझे आनंद भी आ रहा है, स्वांत सुखाय मुझे आनंद आता है। तो बहुत बहुत खुशी हुई यहाँ आकर। और एट द एंड आई विल से that Shakespeare is great, no doubt, but Shakespeare may be great in Europe,
Thank you, sir, for putting Shakespeare in context. And let me take this opportunity of informing on behalf of my department that the first course that is there in our syllabus in MA is not Shakespeare, is not any writer from any European origin. Is Kalidas, Bharat, Dhvanyaloka, Hyutopadesa, and other texts written in India, and the most ancient language, not Sanskrit, but from Tamil. So we have text from that. At this semester, our students are also taking a Swayam course where they are learning Rasa, Dhwani, different aspects of folk theatre of India as well as classical theatre of India. In this gathering, we have a student who worked on Maithili and compared the character of Vidushak with Shakespeare's Falstaff. So it's not that we are saying that Shakespeare is great. Today is his birth anniversary, that's why we're celebrating him. But English literature, Department of English Literature studies all the writers with a critical distance. And we also acknowledge their flaws and their merits. But thank you a lot, sir, for bringing out such beautiful recitation from the languages in which maybe our students in future can also pursue research. And now I would apologize on behalf of the organizing committee because Dr. Meeta will not be able to join us today. She is suffering from severe illness. And we'll have a slight change in the order of the speakers. So I would now like to request my colleague and dear friend, Mr. Balandi Chandova Narsingh, to please introduce our next speaker, Mr. A. Maximilian from Indonesia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this International Symposium on Shakespeare Today in Indian context. I'm here to introduce Dr. Axendro Maximilian, who is from Indonesia. He is a faculty and HOD of Department of English Language Education, STKIP PGRI Institute, Bandar Lampung, Indonesia. He has been associated with India since he has done his PhD from University of Lucknow. His areas of research are English language teaching, English literature, applied linguistics, foreign language and society, and ICT in foreign language literacy. There are books to his credit. Some of them are Pragmatics, a reference of English language teaching. He has also written a memoir, Amazing in Disguise, Memoir of Indonesian Scholar in India. There is one more book to his credit, which is Semantics in Language Teaching. He has been publishing his articles in reputed journals of international and national worth. There are he has been delivering his talks into various international and national conferences. He has been awarded a scholarship from Indian Council for Cultural Relation by the Government of India for his PhD. He has been serving into professional capacities for various journals. He has been members of various organizations which work for the English language teaching. I welcome you, sir, and request you to briefly present your views on the topic given. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste from Indonesia. The Honorable the VC of MGCUB Bihar, the Dean of Humanities and Language, the Head of English Department of MGCUB Bihar, my respected Professor R.P. Singh, my respected Professor Dr. Alka Singh, and all the speakers in this symposium. I am Dr. Aksendro Maximilian from English Language Education Department, STKIP PGRI Bandar Lampung, Indonesia. First of all, I would like to say many thanks for the VC of MGCU Bihar and also the organizing committees and all the personnel of Mahatma Gandhi Central University for inviting me in this wonderful symposium. Well, without further ado, I will start my talk, which is about teaching Shakespeare in today's era. So, because many of you have already talked about the Shakespeare's in the literature point of view, so I will talk about Shakespeare's in the teaching point of view. So in my talk, I am dividing the material into three parts. The first one is why it is important to teach Shakespeare in English subject. And the second one is about my survey result on the questionnaire related to should we teach Shakespeare in today's modern digital era. And the last one is about how to teach Shakespeare in English classroom. Well, I would like to start the discussion about the question related to why it is important to teach Shakespeare in English subject. As we know that William Shakespeare is one of the greatest writer in English. He wrote most of his work, well known between 1590 until 1613. He wrote plays, sonnet, poem, and also narrative poem. His reputation as a writer rose in the 19th century. So the 20th century, the scholarship movements adopted his work. But today, it is unarguable that his work are still very popular and still are studied in the school and also in the university, especially in the language area. Why? Because his work are rich and his work can enrich a reader's life in many ways. For instance, his works are very rich in English language and also are a good source of learning the language. So it can be a good source in learning a language. Shakespeare contributed many words to the English vocabulary. And amazingly, we are still using that words, that vocabulary. It is noted that 2,000 English words coming from the work of Shakespeare. The work makes us sensitive to the English language. And then his works also challenging. Why? Because there are because the work is not easy. I mean, the language is not easy. But when someone is able to study and understand the language, we can aware that the language is rich, that the language is powerful, and we can enjoy the language. And through it, the experiences of the power of the language, I mean the Shakespeare language, can be reached. Ladies and gentlemen, Shakespearean works address various ethical dilemmas. The ethical dilemmas can help us in becoming morally sensible. For example, in the play of Hamlet, Shakespeare addresses the issue of greed for power. He shows how it causes instability in a country. Claudius killed King Hamlet, rises to power, and also possesses the former queen Gertrude. As a result, Hamlet seeks revenge for his father's death, and sadly, he lost his life. So it is about the morality. Then the play addresses the revenge and show that some things related to the obsession with revenge can lead to the downfall. So the work of Shakespeare reminds us about the morality. Through his play, Shakespeare provides sources for debating human conduct. Dear sirs and madam, the messages of his works are so relevant to the life today. Even it was, the work were written in the 16th thousands. So, the power of the language of his work is still alive right now. He talks of things such as power and also show how corrupting power. So we can say that in many countries there are still corruption, and we can imagine Shakespeare's in 1016 have already discussed about the corruption. He showed how people in power find it very difficult to balance their private and also the public life, and show how the people in power manipulate the masses for selfishness and also for their own interest. The play, the Shakespeare's play and drama are very good in studying conspiracy too. His work explore other issues such as gender and then sexuality, love, and also war. These issues shows the kind of relationship between people have in a society. And then his plays contain wit and also humor, so it is entertaining. But it is also can be educative too, so it is also useful for teaching education. Therefore, Shakespeare's work can help university and also the school students to have a deeper literacy appreciation. His works open up our imagination and also our critical thinking. He addresses issues such as relationship between rulers and also their subject, and also he gives us an opportunity to enter the mind of the character of his play, so that we can enlarge our experience. And also we can involve in the story. Beside that, the plays also carries a universal message. The universality of the messages in the play and its relevance to the human real life can make the plays important. Then the culture of the English is also well documented by his dramas. Through the play, one is able to know how the society was together with its attitude towards its member. Considering this reason and also the evidence that I have explained before, it is clear that it is very important to study the Shakespearean works. And then I will come to the second question. The question is, should we teach Shakespeare in today's modern digital era? I would like to start by talking about the result of my mini survey. I asked 61 students from my department, and also 12 English teachers. From the point of view of students, most of the Indonesian students agree that Shakespearean work are still relevant to our today's era. Based on the result, 80.32% of the students want to learn Shakespeare in their English classroom. 80.32% of the students. But on the other hand, 5 out of 12 English teachers agree that Shakespeare is still relevant with today's era. It means that only 41.6% of the English teacher who agree to teach Shakespeare in their English subject. Only 41.6%. It is an irony for us for sure. Yes, this fact is an irony for us. But this is the real fact. It is an evidence. Why? Because most of the teacher knows the benefit and advantages of teaching Shakespeare to their students. Yes, they know it. They know that Shakespeare is rich, the language is good, but the teacher have some worries. There are some worries whether their students still like to talk about Shakespeare's story or not. They worry. Do the students coming in this modern digital era, society 5.0, still love Shakespeare's story? The teachers confused about the language too, whether the students still want to learn the language or not. Most of them also get confused about how to teach Shakespeare to their students, how to attract the students' attention and motivation during the time in learning English language using Shakespeare. The teacher worry whether the students can be involved in the teaching and learning activity during their English language classroom. This worriness have a solution. As a solution, the English teacher, have to know a way of the effective teaching using some strategies that can be attracting and also make students find easier in learning Shakespeare when they are learning English for sure. Therefore, in the next part, I also would like to talk about how to teach Shakespeare in the English classroom. There are some strategies that I have adapted from British Council material. Based on this material, I got 4 strategies. They are getting to grip with the language, and then discovering and understanding the characters, telling the stories, and also creating the right environment. Number 1 is getting to grip with the language. As the language teacher, we can help our students in the classroom by using some approaches. There are a lot of different techniques to study the skin of Shakespeare that we can use to help our students to unlock the Shakespearean language for themselves, for example. Here, I would like to provide the teaching strategies for the skin of the Tempest that was written by William Shakespeare around 1610 until 1611. For teaching the Tempest, before you start, you can give your student the opportunity to read the skin first. Students have to know the scene first. One way to do this is to ask them to take it in turn to speak section for the next for the next text. So they can read the text loudly, they can speak the text loudly. Then changing the speakers in each punctuation mark. Yes, sometimes students will have just one word to say, and on another hand, sometimes they will have a long praise and also clause. It is okay. Yeah, it is so very okay. Ask your students to talk about what they notice about the language. Do any word get repeated? Which character had longer section of the speech? So invite the students to ask about it. And you also, as the teacher, can ask this question to your students to make sure whether they understand or not. One great way of helping students to understand what is happening, if you are looking at the verse, is to ask one student to read the last word of each line. Yes, Shakespeare is unique, in the Tempest especially. Ask your students to read the last word of each line while everyone else listen. And then you can ask, what do this word make them feel? And then invite your learners to work in a pair. Yes, why work in a pair? Because the main function of learning language is for communicating, for having a communication. Invite your learners to work in a pair and read the scenes again, facing each other. Don't forget to ask the students to face each other. As they read, ask them to try it in a different way. For example, they could start by reading it as if Prospero is a powerful footballer, or we can say sorcerer, and is in complete control of Ariel, and then as if they were old friends. And then talk to your students about which way of reading they enjoy most. Don't forget to ask your students, and then don't forget also to reinforce your students. Ask them who they think has the power in this pairing, what kind of relationship do they think these two characters have, and then approaching Shakespeare's drama as the text for performance and thinking about the interaction on the stage can also help students to discover the language for themselves and also to think about some of different way they can interpret a scene by looking at the clue in the text. And then the second one is discovering and understanding the character. To help young people connect with Shakespearean's play, it is very important to look in details of the characters. What motivates them? Why are they conflicted? How do they change? This question can be asked to your students. There are various theoretical techniques you can use with the students to help them to do this. The following activities that I will explain to you is about the Macbeth soliloquy written by William Shakespeare. It is an important moment in the play where Macbeth is deciding if he could kill King Duncan. Before you start, students should have the chance to read and understand the speech. Without feeling a pressure, you must make sure that your students have no feeling of pressure. Why? To know, to make them enjoy the teaching and learning process. A choral reading can be a great way for this, a choral reading. Asking everyone to read together.
Dr. Maximilian, kindly pardon me. Actually, we are running on a very tight schedule here, and we have already crossed the time allotted for this program. So, may I request you to kindly wind up maybe in 2-3 minutes?
Okay, okay.
Not too troublesome.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I will end it after 2 or 3 minutes. And then read a very short extract. You can pause and also discuss any word or phrases that might be confusing. Make sure that your students can think about Macbeth is going through. Okay, and then provide each student with the text scrap and extract, and you can also give the students the transcript of the play so that the students can understand the characters. And the third one is telling the story. the first thing that students do is get completely clear about the story. So you can tell the story to your students. Okay, before you start, you need to prepare the slip of paper for each part of the story, describing what happened in each section. So the students can think that, oh, this story, my teacher have already given me and also prepared the material. So I have to be serious in listening my teacher when they are telling the story. And then start by organizing the students into a small group. It can be consist of 4 or 5 students and give each of the group 1 or 2 different section of the play. And then allow each group 10 minutes to prepare the scene using the description. And then allow them to perform, so they can have a chance to perform each of the scenes in order. So you as the teacher have to order them, make them in a good arrangement. And the fourth one is creating the right environment. Make sure that as the teacher we have created the classroom, the English classroom, as a right environment to learn English, to improve their English learning skills. While we are teaching Shakespeare's with the students, creating the right environment is really important. Why? Because they can have so good activities when the environment is also good. They can have a good soul. They can have a good involvement in the classroom, especially in the English classroom. So start by asking students to walk around the room. They can walk around the room without talking. So they, after listening the story, they can think, they can remind the story, so remember the story, so they can feel that the story is alive and they can be the character of the story. Yeah, so have a good right environment is very important. So to conclude, because of the time, I get only several minutes, but it's okay. It is unarguable to say that Shakespeare is still relevant today and has stood to the test of the time. Reader can resonate the universal message his work passed. So, if there is someone who asks you whether the Shakespeare is still relevant to our era today, we can say directly, yes, Shakespeare is still relevant even today. Well, dear ladies and gentlemen, in this occasion, I would like to thank and also appreciate all of you for organizing this wonderful symposium. Many thanks and see you again. Namaste from Indonesia.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Maximilian, for joining with us from across the border and giving us some practical strategies as to how to involve students while teaching William Shakespeare. Due to the paucity of time, we have to let go of the Q&A session in today's this meeting, and I would now straight away like to invite the Dean School of Humanities and Languages, Professor Prasoon Dutta Singh ji, for his address on Shakespeare, sir.
महात्मा गांधी केंद्रीय विश्वविद्यालय मोतिहारी के अंग्रेजी विभाग द्वारा आयोजित आज के इस सिंपोजियम की अध्यक्षता कर रहे हैं हमारे विश्वविद्यालय के माननीय कुलपति प्रोफेसर संजय श्रीवास्तव सर। हमारे बीच ई माध्यम से संबद्ध इंडोनेशिया से, लखनऊ से, साउथ बिहार गया से जुड़े हुए सभी सम्मानित अतिथि वक्तागण, मंच पर आसीन जयप्रकाश विश्वविद्यालय छपरा के अंग्रेजी विभाग के अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर अमरनाथ प्रसाद जी, अंग्रेजी विभाग के अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर बिमलेश सिंह जी, अंग्रेजी विभाग के सभी सम्मानित शिक्षकगण, विद्यार्थीगण, शोधार्थीगण। सबसे पहले तो मैं माननीय कुलपति जी के प्रति आभार प्रकट करना चाहूंगा कि आप बहुत सहज रूप में कभी कभी हमें इतना समय दे देते हैं कि हम अभिभूत हो जाते हैं। मैं बैठा बैठा सोच रहा था, हम लोग संस्कृत में एक न्याय पढ़ाते हैं। संस्कृत में एक न्याय है वृद्ध कुमारी न्याय। वृद्ध कुमारी न्याय का मतलब यह है कि एक बूढ़ी कुंवारी महिला को कहा गया कि तुम एक वरदान मांग सकती हो। उसने वरदान मांगा कि हमारे बच्चे सोने के कटोरी में दूध भात खाएं। अब जब बहुत सारे अर्थों की, विपुल अर्थों की व्यंजना हमें थोड़े शब्दों में करनी होती है तो हम न्याय का सहारा लेते हैं। मैं माननीय कुलपति जी के बारे में सोच रहा था कि सर के माध्यम से हमें एक ऐसे सहृदय कुलपति मिल गए, सख्त प्रशासक भी मिल गए, अच्छे एकेडमिशियन मिल गए, छात्र वत्सल को कुलपति मिल गए। तो ये वृद्ध कुमारी न्याय की तरह जो है माननीय कुलपति जी का हमारे बीच में होना हमारी सभी आकांक्षाओं को पूरा करता है। तो मैं सबसे पहले माननीय कुलपति जी के प्रति आभार प्रकट करता हूं। मैं अंग्रेजी विभाग के अध्यक्ष डॉक्टर बिमलेश सिंह जी को और तमाम सम्मानित शिक्षक जो अंग्रेजी विभाग के हैं उनको बधाई देना चाहता हूं कि बिमलेश सिंह जी ने न केवल अंग्रेजी विभाग को ऊर्जास्वित बनाया है बल्कि विभाग के विद्यार्थियों को उनके कलात्मक अभिरुचि के अनुसार उनके साहित्यिक प्रवृत्तियों के उन्नयन हेतु पर्याप्त अवसर भी दिए हैं और वो समय समय पे हमें दिखता है। तो ये हमारे लिए अत्यंत परितोष का विषय है। आज का जो विषय है शेक्सपियर, अभी प्रोफेसर अमरनाथ प्रसाद सिंह जी कह रहे थे कि कालिदास और शेक्सपियर की तुलना नहीं हो सकती है, अथवा पश्चिम में, इंग्लैंड में और अफ्रीका में, अफ्रीकन कंट्री में शेक्सपियर विशिष्ट हो सकते हैं लेकिन भारत के परिप्रेक्ष्य में कालिदास ही हो सकते हैं। मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि निश्चित रूप से कालिदास और शेक्सपियर की तुलना नहीं हो सकती है क्योंकि उनका कालक्रम में इतना अंतर है, कम से कम 1500-1700 वर्षों का अंतर है। लेकिन फिर भी कुछ तो ऐसी बात होगी कि प्रायशः बाहर के भी विद्वान और भारतवर्ष के भी विद्वान कालिदास और शेक्सपियर की तुलना करते रहते हैं। मैं बहुत कम समय में 2-3 बिंदुओं को उभारना चाहता हूं, आपके समक्ष रखना चाहता हूं। वस्तुतः जिस प्रकार कालिदास मानव मात्र के कवि हैं, कालिदास संस्कृति के कवि हैं, कालिदास प्रकृति के कवि हैं, मानव मूल्यों के स्थापना के कवि हैं, सत्य के कवि हैं, शिव के कवि हैं, सुंदर के कवि हैं। ठीक उसी प्रकार शेक्सपियर की जितनी भी रचनाएं हैं, हम भारतीय मानक को देखते हैं तो भरतनाट्य शास्त्र में कहते हैं अथेदम काव्यम कविरेकः प्रजापति यथास्मै रोचते विश्वम तथेदम परिवर्तते। नाटकांतम कवित्वम, भरत कहते हैं कवित्व का चरम जो है नाटक होता है। और नाटक में, नाटक सार्वदेशिक होता है, सार्वकालिक होता है, सबके लिए होता है। काव्य को पढ़ने के लिए एक निश्चित पांडित्य की आवश्यकता होती है, लेकिन नाटक जो होता है वो सबके लिए होता है। एक रिक्शा चालक भी नाटक का आनंद ले सकता है और उसके नाटक के माध्यम से, चूंकि दृश्य काव्य होता है, उसके माध्यम से वो अपने मन को झंकृत भी करता है और दीर्घ काल तक, लंबे समय तक उसका प्रभाव उसके मन पे और मस्तिष्क पे बना रहता है। कालिदास एक ऐसे कवि हैं जो अपने काव्य में कहने योग्य सारी बातों को कहते नहीं हैं, अपने काव्य में एक चारुता उत्पन्न कर देते हैं, एक निश्चित प्रभाव उत्पन्न कर देते हैं और बाकी बातें पाठक की मनसा पर छोड़ते हैं, आपकी कल्पनाशीलता पर छोड़ते हैं, जिसको हम ध्वनि कहते हैं। ध्वनि काव्य की विशेषता होती है कि जिस काव्य में आपके पास इमेजिनेशन की पूरी संभावना है वो ध्वनि होता है। ध्वनि को शब्दों में बताना बहुत मुश्किल है। ध्वनि के आचार्य आनंदवर्धन कहते हैं कि जिस प्रकार किसी सुंदर स्त्री के शरीर के विभिन्न अवयव के बारे में बता सकते हैं कि उसकी आंखें बड़ी अच्छी हैं, उसके बाल बड़े अच्छे हैं, उसके कपोल अच्छे हैं, उसके कान अच्छे हैं। लेकिन इन सब चीजों के अलावा किसी नारी के सौंदर्य में एक लावण्य होता है। अब लावण्य कहाँ है यह बताना बहुत मुश्किल है। लावण्य है लेकिन अब कहाँ है यह कहना मुश्किल होता है। ठीक उसी प्रकार अच्छे काव्यों की विशेषता होती है। काव्य में जो ध्वनि होता है वो केवल जो है बुद्धिजीवी समझते हैं, जो काव्य के पारखी होते हैं वही समझते हैं। शेक्सपियर के काव्यों की यही विशेषता है। भारतीय परंपरा में नाटक सुखांत होते हैं। आप यदि शेक्सपियर के नाटक को देखेंगे, प्रारंभिक उनके जितने भी नाटक हैं, चाहे एज यू लाइक इट हो, मिडसमर नाइट ड्रीम हो, या और भी जो उनके नाटक हैं, मर्चेंट ऑफ वेनिस हो, तो वो सारे नाटक सुखांत हैं। कवि अपने जीवन में जो कुछ समझता है, जो कुछ उसके जीवन में घटित होता है, उसकी रचनाओं में वही चीजें परिलक्षित होती हैं। बाद के काल में अगर आप शेक्सपियर के लाइफ को देखेंगे तो बाद का समय उनका बहुत त्रासदीपूर्ण रहा है। 11 वर्ष का उनका बेटा मर गया। उसके बाद जो जीवन की त्रासदियों से भरे रहे। शेक्सपियर के जीवन में कई ऐसे अवसर आए जब वो 5-7 वर्षों के लिए लुप्त हो गए। उनके बारे में कुछ भी नहीं पता है कि वो कहाँ रहे, कैसे क्या किए। उनका जो त्रासदीपूर्ण लाइफ रहा है, उसके बाद जो बीच के उनके काल रहे हैं जहां पे उन्होंने बहुत सारी पोएट्री लिखी है। उसके बाद जब सुखांत नाटक लिखते हैं और बाद में जब दुखांत नाटक लिखते हैं तो उनके जीवन का जो प्रभाव है, उनके जीवन का जो अनुभव है, उनके जीवन की जो दार्शनिक विवेचना है, वो सब कुछ उनके नाटकों में परिलक्षित होती है। यह शेक्सपियर की विशेषता है। इसीलिए शेक्सपियर जो है आज भी प्रासंगिक है, सार्वदेशिक भी है, सार्वकालिक भी है और वो सबके कवि हैं। जिस प्रकार कालिदास प्रकृति वर्णन करते हैं, जिस प्रकार कालिदास उपमा का सहारा लेते हैं। अमरनाथ प्रसाद जी कह रहे थे कि उपमा कालिदासस्य भारवे अर्थ गौरवम दंडिनः पद लालित्यम माघे संति त्रय गुणः। आप शेक्सपियर की रचनाओं में यदि देखेंगे तो हर जगह उपमा का सहारा लेते हैं। कालिदास को उपमा दीप शिखा की उपाधि दी गई थी। मैं एक छोटा सा प्रसंग केवल बता के अपनी बात समाप्त करता हूं। इंदुमती का स्वयंवर चल रहा होता है। वहां पर सभी राजा आए होते हैं और वो स्वयंवर में सभी राजा इस उम्मीद से आए हुए हैं कि इंदुमती हमारा वरण कर लेगी। कालिदास को उपमा कालिदास क्यों कहा गया, मैं ये बता रहा हूं। तो कालिदास लिखते हैं कि इंदुमती दीप शिखा होती है। बड़े बड़े जो ऑफिसर्स होते हैं, सचिव स्तर के लोग या बड़े बड़े विश्वविद्यालयों के जो कुलपति होते हैं, उनके आवास पे जाइएगा तो एक उनके आवास के सामने एक बड़ा सा एक दीप शिखा होता है। 2 दीप शिखाएं लगी होती हैं। वो दीप शिखा क्या होती है कि रात में प्रज्वलित होती हैं। जब जलती है तो इतनी सुंदर दिखती है, लेकिन दिन में विवर्ण पड़ जाती है। दिन में उनका कोई मतलब नहीं होता है। तो कालिदास लिखते हैं कि जैसे इंदुमती थाल लेकर किसी राजा के समक्ष जाती थी तो दीप शिखा के भांति वो प्रज्वलित हो जाता था। उसका चेहरा जो है एकदम गदगद हो जाता था। लेकिन आगे जैसे ही बढ़ जाती थी तो वो राजा वैसे ही विवर्ण हो जाता था अपने वर्ण के लिए स्वयंवर में। तो जिन जिन राजाओं के पास से गुजरती थी तो दीप शिखा के भांति वो जल जाते थे, प्रदीप्त हो जाते थे और गुजर जाने के बाद दीप शिखा के भांति ही विवर्ण पड़ जाते थे। कालिदास की इसी उपमा पे, ऐसी बहुत सारी उपमाएं हैं, लेकिन उनके इस उपमा पे कालिदास को दीप शिखा की उपाधि दी गई। शेक्सपियर की रचनाओं में भी आपको ये चीजें प्रायशः देखने के लिए मिलेंगी। शेक्सपियर की रचनाओं में औचित्य है। औचित्य का मतलब होता है कि जहां पर जो चीज होना चाहिए, आप शेक्सपियर की रचनाओं से उन शब्दों को हटा नहीं सकते हैं। लगभग 30,000 शब्दों पे उनके अधिकार थे। और जिस प्रकार कालिदास के शब्दों को, अब कालिदास मेघदूतम में अलस गमना लिखते हैं। एक स्त्री के धीमे धीमे चलने के लिए अलस गमना शब्द का प्रयोग करते हैं। अब शनै शनै गतः शनै गच्छति अवगच्छति, आप इस तरह के शब्द का प्रयोग कर ही नहीं सकते हैं। उसके लिए जिस नायिका के बारे में वो बताना चाहते हैं, अलस गमना मतलब अलसाई हुई चल रही है। उसी प्रकार से शेक्सपियर की रचनाओं में भी जो शब्द हैं, आप उन शब्दों को निकाल के जो शेक्सपियर कहना चाहते हैं उसकी व्यंजना नहीं हो सकती है। तो ये सारे ऐसी समानताएं हैं जो कालिदास और शेक्सपियर को बिल्कुल एक तरह के कवि के रूप में स्थापित करती है। और शेक्सपियर के बारे में, कालिदास के बारे में हमारे भारतीय जो मनीषा और भारतीय जो शास्त्रीय कवि रहे उन्होंने तो कहा ही है कवि कुल गुरु, लेकिन पाश्चात्य जगत के भी लोग कहते हैं कि only the single composition अभिज्ञान शाकुंतलम is the best composition of all the compositions of Shakespeare। तो कालिदास को शेक्सपियर की सारी रचनाओं पे उनकी एक दो रचनाओं को भारी बताने का जो उपक्रम पाश्चात्य विचारक करते हैं, तो निश्चित रूप से भारत के परिप्रेक्ष्य में तो कालिदास महान ही है, किंतु शेक्सपियर निश्चित रूप से अंग्रेजी के लिए पाश्चात्य जगत के एक ऐसे कवि हैं जिनमें कालिदास की रचनाओं में और कालिदास में जो सब गुण है वो सब उनमें प्रचुरता के साथ पाए जाते हैं। मैं समझता हूं कि आज के सिंपोजियम से आज के हमारे विद्यार्थियों को, शोधार्थियों को बहुत सारी ऐसी चीजें मिली होंगी जिसको वो जब आगे अध्ययन करेंगे तो उसका उपयोग करेंगे, उनको मार्गदर्शन मिला होगा। मैं आप सबको फिर से एक बार शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। आप सबके प्रति बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thanks a lot, sir. It was really pleasing to listen the depth with which you could talk about Kalidas with the same amount of ease you talked about Shakespeare. And you have very rightly spoken that yes, the theater is that kind of a genre, that kind of an art that does not require any specialization. And that's why the Natya Shastra or the Natya Ved was called the Pancham Ved, which was accessible to people of all varnas at that time. And it is also said about Shakespeare that had Shakespeare composed his writing for the enjoyment of the elites who were sitting in the galleries like the dukes, the duchess, the barons, the king and the queen, then he could not have survived with us. The fact that he wrote for the lowest denominator of the box office, the groundlings who stood in the Globe Theatre on their feet with the lowest amount of ticket, the people to whom Falstaff addressed his monologue about Sherry, the people to whom the Black Prince addressed his patriotic zeal. That's why Shakespeare survived with us, because he talked to the people in the people's language, because English at the time of Shakespeare was no more than Bhojpuri, while Greek and Latin were regarded the intellectual language. So thanks a lot, sir, for your depth and for your very beautiful comparison between Shakespeare and Kalidas. Maybe in future we also could have a conference on Kalidas and Shakespeare, which could mix the best of Eastern and Western poetics. Now, without further ado, now let me request the chair of this session, Professor Sanjay Srivastava, Honorable Vice-Chancellor, who has been listening patiently, who has been with us. Sir.
So we started at 11 and now it is, when I will be finishing, it will be, I think, 2 o'clock. So it is not wise to stand between you and your lunch. So I will be very brief, and also that so many speakers have spoken and, many things about Shakespeare by now, and it has emboldened you to ask questions whenever the time of the question Q&A session comes. I'm not an authority, and I'm very distantly related to this theme of this seminar. You have listened to Professor Amarnath Prasad ji, Professor R.P. Singh, Dr. Vipin and Dr. Maximilian. You've also listened to Bimlesh ji's very, very erudite introduction of Shakespeare, the theme of this seminar. You've also listened to Professor Prasoon Dutta Singh ji, comparing Shakespeare and Kalidas, and also to Dr. Patra, who has intermittently spoken and gave the glimpse of what he thinks about Shakespeare. What catches, what engrosses me in Shakespeare is, his creative energy. That is something, or the energy of his mind. That is something very, very great about Shakespeare. That how prolific he was when he was writing poetry, or as a dramatist, we know Shakespeare.
And Shakespeare's timelessness, he was writing in the late 16th century and in the first decade of the 17th century, but he still remained very, very relevant. Bimlesh has told you about many Bollywood movies, based on the dramas and the poetries. I mean, the things Shakespeare has produced. So I'm not going to name them again. So you call him Bard of Avon or Swan of Avon. I call him Shakespeare of Avon or Shakespeare of England or Shakespeare of the Elizabethan age in England. Now you would have read Homer, Dante, Charles Dickens, and Tolstoy, but none of them has been so timeless as the Shakespeare is. You still find, as most of the speakers have told, that we still find him very, very relevant to the circumstances or the context which is existing even after more than 400 years of his existence or of his writing. So, what makes him timeless? This is the question. I mean, the students may be pondering upon. I found in Shakespeare, the important thing is the intellectual rapidity. How rapidly he unravels and unfolds his ideas and the thought in most of his poetries and the dramas. That is, something which catches everyone's imagination. That the intellectual rapidity, that how quickly, how fast, and how the ideas run so fast in Shakespeare's works, that is something which is really very, very extraordinary. Then Shakespeare's perceptiveness is another important thing, because sometimes he is depicting or in his imagination there are ghosts, or the ghost telling Hamlet that you should take you should be the avenger and you killed your uncle who killed your father. Or talking about the Macbeth, the witches talking to Macbeth and telling him that you will be a kind of king, sometimes in future. So this perceptive, how he perceives things is very important. And he perceives, and then, in his imagination, he portrays things in his mind, in his mental faculty, and then he gives, a sort of tapestry to it, and then the imagery, the language he uses, the metaphors he uses, or the extended metaphor he uses. So these are, some of the important, many of the speakers told that he invented vocabs, a lot of, language devices or the poetic devices and such kind of things. So if you ignore the authorship candidate, the authorship, candidature controversy about Shakespeare, I would say that he was one of the most genius, person the human race has ever produced. Because the kind of intellectual rapidity and how he perceives things, and then the imagery that comes, that how the language, through that language he depicts, he vigneys, and he exhibits what he has in mind, is something really very, very, extraordinary. And then his poetic power, there's something which is intelligible, which is imaginary, which is in his imagination. He is able to express those things very, very effectively. This makes, him quite distinct from the other scholars of his times or poets of his times. And in Shakespeare, you will find all the complexities of the human nature, the subconscious mind, subconscious thinking, and those get the imagery, those get the language, and he expresses all these things very effectively, very fluently, and very lucidly, that even a common man can understand. He invents vocabs, he invents the language, the style, the syntax, he tries to invent. So, and all these things, I mean, if you read Shakespeare's, you will find infatuation, affection, love, treachery, tragedy, usurpation of power, lust of power, killing, interaction with the ghost, witches, dreams, heavens, earthly things. I mean, all kinds of things, plottery, eavesdropping, dilemma, human and social fortunes, misfortunes, all colors of life and all subtleties that a human, being can come across. So all because of this white tapestry, white canvas he takes, and the language he brings, the effective language he brings into his poetry and his drama. These things, makes him a very, very great, I would say, a philosopher, as well as, because you see that when he talks about the dreams or the subconscious minds, even Sigmund Freud is, trying to see all these things, that how the Shakespeare unfolds his dreams, or he unfolds the unconscious mind. So likewise, if you read Romeo and Juliet, you will find the feminist, they are having their perspective on such kind of, literature produced by Shakespeare. So you see in Shakespeare Machiavelli, you see Renaissance there, republicanism, you see, then romanticism, then, all kinds of, many kinds of things. But actually, Shakespeare is not associating with any kind of ism or any kind of ideology, and that is another point which Professor Prasad has told us, that because of this he also becomes a sort of a timeless person, a timeless poet and a dramatist. So it's also important on part of the students, that they try to do the source hunting, that from where Shakespeare was getting all these frames, from where he was getting all these plots, whether there was this, something, some mystic, creatures or the characters which existed in the Latin literature or in the Roman literature, or maybe, other kind of things which was available to Shakespeare to read. However, it is very, very challenging to accept that he was only grammar school dropout, and he couldn't study, he couldn't go to a university or a college, and still he was such a prolific writer. So, and this brings the controversy regarding the authorship candidature and sort of a ghost writing, which he was, blamed that there was a person called Edward de Vere, if I'm remembering his name correctly, and he was the 17th Earl of the Oxford, and he was a literary kind of person, and it was said that it was the ghost writing Shakespeare was publishing or writing, making it to the public, and it was actually Edward de Vere who was writing. But these things, I think the logic doesn't permit it to take it too far. It is too much stretching something, a conspiracy kind of theory. So all greatness attributed to Shakespeare is, to my mind, is true. To my understanding, is true, and he's really timeless. He is really still relevant when we, especially when we go in the, when we talk about the human nature or the human subconscious mind, or various shades and the aspects of human nature. For example, lust for power, ego, love, affection, and such kind of things. So with these words, I remain, because I don't have much to say, because I am not an expert in this area, and you have your professors here who will tell you more about it. I thank Professor Prasoon Dutta Singh ji for initiating such academic events in the faculty. Professor Bimlesh ji, who had also invited me last year for this, but I couldn't come. This year, even I was hesitant coming here, because I'm not an expert in this area. And all the faculty members, Umesh, Deepak, and Kalyani, and other, faculty members. Yeah. So, and all the research scholars, my sincere thanks to you for involving yourself, indulging yourself in such a brilliant academic exercise. And I hope that you learned from the writings of William Shakespeare, how he uses the language, how he plays with the world. He has way with the word and the language, and all these things you need to learn. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir. And you have hinted at some of the controversial debates concerning William Shakespeare. And let me just point out that my colleague Dr. Deepak had suggested the screening of a movie, Shakespeare in Love, where also his authorship is questioned. And we have this debate about whether he was really Shakespeare, this bald-headed man, or he was some kind of proxy author writing for someone else. Just his name was there. And Shakespeare could not have been Shakespeare had he been in 21st century, because he was a great plagiaristic author who had just copied from Holinshed's Chronicles and other authors, but he made them his own using the loopholes of law at that time. And you also talked about Shakespeare not belonging to any school of thought. Therefore, every character is a hero in William Shakespeare, or every character is a villain in William Shakespeare. And John Keats pointed it out that Shakespeare has what he calls negative capability, a kind of talent to be in doubts and mysteries without an irritable hankering after truth and reason. Perhaps that's what makes him so universal, that he doesn't take side. So thanks a lot, sir, for your insightful lecture. And now I would now like to request okay, sir. Sir, with your permission, I would like to request Professor Amarnath Prasad to present a number of his books to Honorable Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sanjay Srivastava ji. So now, with the permission of the chair, we have some time for question and answer. So in case any of you are willing to ask any aspect, any question with relation to William Shakespeare, we have the panel of experts. We have the panel of experts also online. You are free to do so. Okay, 2 questions. Use this mic.
Hello. Sir, I am Krishna Kumar, PhD scholar, Department of English. Since you presented some portion of Shakespeare Hindi, so my question is a bit different. Since as you have presented, which of the visual representation you prefer, screen or the stage? Here, a screen mean the adaptation in the movie form or the play performance on a stage. Any one of you, any one of them, if you prefer.
So whether you like the adaptation of William Shakespeare on screen, like audiovisual platforms, or the direct staging of the play. For example, Hardy did not like the staging. He wanted to read the book. So probably that was his question, if I'm right. Okay, yes, sir.
Shakespeare has written so many plays, and most of the plays has been adapted according to the situations, according to the demands of the country, and out of imagination. And some directors and some authors who have adapted the works of Shakespeare, they have created imagination out of his own pocket. And in this way, their adaptations are very suitable to the present demands. Just like he has written the great drama Hamlet, and Heather has been, that is a very beautiful film. Onkara has also been a film on Othello. And you will see that how, according to the situation of the present time, some sorts of distortions have been deliberately done by the directors, and they are very up to the mark. I like it, and I also promote such type of things. Thank you. Stage, what do you want to say? I do not understand what you say. Oh, okay. Yes. Already you all have performed well on the stage, but there must be some other platforms. Such type of things must be done with some costumes, and that will be more appealing to the audience. So, first of all, when I visualized, I thought that they are quarreling each other. So, costumes plays a very important role. A stage plays a very important role. Rehearsal must be done. Though the performance done by the students really very marvelous, very commendable, and their pronunciation was also very good. And without any hesitation, they have performed well. And if they have been provided costumes, they will certainly perform, and they will earn laurels. Thanks. Okay. Thank you, sir. And I am very surprised, and when I listened to the lecture of our Honorable Vice-Chancellor, I was really surprised, and he has very truthful words and proper words at proper place. And he has used. And I never thought that he has such a depth of literature, being a student of political science. Generally, we have seen that most of the professors, teachers belonging to this faculty of they have very little knowledge about literature, but he has presented very unknown things, very important things with beautiful language and very, I mean to say, very composed way he has presented all the things. Thank you very much, sir. So, time for one more question. Now let me request all the students of the MS second year to please.
Meeting is ended.
MS second year, colleagues Sunita Bhattacharya, Vipin Kumar, Tapas Sarkar, Priyadarshini, Priya, Nitika, Monica, please come to the
I think now it is over.
There is no response from their side.
Call them. Now they have ended the meeting, I think. You must call.
I think some technical fault is there. बड़ी गर्मी है भाई.
Now let me request the students from other departments. Mukesh Kumar from PhD Hindi, then Janathan. नहीं हो रहा क्या ये ऑन नहीं हो रहा So now let me request my colleague Professor Lali Hajri to please take over.
of thanks, I want to first thank our Honorable Vice-Chancellor, sir. He is the Chief Patron and the Chairperson for today's event, Professor Sanjay Srivastava, sir, for gracing the occasion with his presence and sparing his valuable time for us. And so you said you are very distant to the topic, but as the sir pointed out, your talk is really very insightful. I thank Dean, School of Languages, Professor Prasoon Dutta Singh, for bringing a very remarkable comparison between Shakespeare and Kalidas and for enlightening us all. I want to thank all the speakers, keynote speaker, Professor R.P. Singh ji, Professor Vipin Kumar Singh ji, Professor Amarnath Prasad ji, and Dr. Maximilian for sharing various perspectives to read Shakespeare that are certainly valuable to understand the contemporary relevance of the author. I also want to thank for students for their remarkable performance and all other students who actively participated in today's event. You made it livelier, and I thank you all, and all other people who have directly or indirectly extended their support to this event. I thank them all. Thank you. I apologize, I missed two very important names. Two of the participants among listeners have joined us from outside MGCUB. Dr. Umesh G, who is Vice Principal, Centenary Inter College, Motihari, and Sahu Ji, who is retired PEO, Motihari, who has shown an active interest in all the academic events in this department. So I thank you both. Thank you.